I think Manchester United are on the verge of being true title contenders. I think they are approaching the title race. And by the time y'all see this, I could look stupid because the Manchester Derby is tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock.
Oh God.
But what I'll say, if Manchester United win the Manchester Derby, they are 1 point behind Man City. And if I'm not mistaken, me and you both consider Man City in the title race at the moment. In the race,
Absolutely.
you
Yes.
think Arsenal's going to win it, and I think Manchester City will. But regardless of that, they're in the race to win it. So if Man United are 1 point behind them, how can you not say Man United are not in it? They're in the race. They're in the running. Eric Ten Hag, what a manager. We just talked about how I don't think Graham Potter is the guy for Chelsea. Eric Ten Hag is the guy for Manchester United. He will bring silverware to the club. And I think he will be the guy who brings Manchester United back to a Premier League title. I think he can do that. I think he has proven himself this season. He has become the fastest manager in Man United history to reach 20 wins. This is one of the most illustrious football clubs in English football, but also world football. And he breaks a record that no other manager in their history could achieve. 6 straight wins in all competitions since the World Cup has break resumed. 1 point away from City if they win the derby, like I said. He has brought Marcus Rashford back into form. And I think the scariest part about this Manchester United team is that they are not even that far developed into the Eric Ten Hag project. The Glazers are on their way out, and they can't even make proper signings. They can only make loan signings right now because the owners aren't spending any money because they don't want to because they're selling the club. So, you know, Ten Hag was able to bring in some players like Casemiro and things like that in the summer, but now they aren't even able to add more in January because of this. They are eventually at some point going to get new owners and they're going to back Ten Hag even more. And they're going to sign a true number 9. Right now they've been playing Martial. Martial isn't that guy, but
Martial.
they're still succeeding with him. They have a goal scoring issue. They've only scored the same amount of goals as Leeds United in the Premier League, which was a crazy stat when I first heard it, but it is true. If they can get a proper number 9, they can compete and win the league in these seasons to come because they have a great midfield. Casemiro is that guy. What a signing he is. Uh, Real Madrid were looking to let go because they were bringing in a younger guy in Tchouameni. But Casemiro, he's not washed by any stretch of the imagination. He's still a phenomenal player. In his prime, kind of, whatever you want to say, prime, he's close to it. Still a phenomenal player. My point is, Manchester United have not had something to look forward to as a football club in a long time. And I think Eric Ten Hag is the guy to bring them back to the glory days because this guy doesn't take any shit from anyone. He has got the players to buy into his system. He actually has a system. What a manager he is. I love Eric Ten Hag. I think he's a phenomenal manager. Manchester United finally have done something right since since Sir Alex retired. And I think that they are on track to be back in the glory days in the future.
And look, I don't completely disagree with everything you said. I just think it's a little bit jumping a little bit too far ahead there. That I don't yes, I think I had them making top 4. I had them finishing 3. But to see them as actual contender, like, do I actually think Manchester United could win the title this season right now? No.
I
I
don't
think
think
there's
so
no
either, but I
chance.
think they're in the race.
But for me to actually think of someone as like a true contender, I have to somewhat believe that they can win the title. To me, that's what a contender should be. So if you
But
think
they're in
someone's
the
a contender,
but you can't say they're not in the race if they're 1 point behind. If they win tomorrow, look, this my
if
point is
it, but
if
that's a big if.
it is, but well, I
I
mean,
mean, we
Man
saw the
City
last time
coming
they
off
got
of
it.
a
I mean, City had
they're
2
not on
hat tricks in the
Man
same game
City.
against
Man
Manchester.
City aren't on great form at the moment though. They're coming off of a loss in the cup to Southampton. I mean, Pep
But I
Guardiola
mean,
said
I get that, but you have to also think that I mean these players understand it's the Manchester Derby. There's always that bit of that City players can kind of scoff at these what they look at bottom feeders of the league. But when it comes down to a derby, I think players always play up. And when City have all the players, I mean City have the guys. I mean Holland had a hat trick I mean, Haaland's going to be looking to get another hat trick.
He is.
Like when you look at this, who's going to stop Erling Haaland on this Manchester United team? I don't know who, because we thought maybe they could do something, but it's really a project for every team in world football at the moment to see how to stop this damn guy. And look, I get that they've won 6 straight games, but I can just look at who they played. They played Charlton, Everton, Bournemouth, Wolves, and Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
And Burnley. Look, I'm not gonna completely discredit, because look, it's hard to win consecutive league games like that, but they're not playing the upper echelon elite here. They haven't. I mean, yeah, towards the beginning of the season, they beat Arsenal. They gave Arsenal their first loss, but that was still, when they were still poor. I mean, towards the beginning of the season, Manchester United were in a bit of a mini crisis.
They were.
And they somehow
But they turned it around.
They've turned it around a little bit.
Ten
but
Hag is a good enough manager to do so.
Look, I even when they were going through that, I thought Ten Hag was great. I thought he's another guy you have to give him time. He's the perfect guy. If there's anybody you're going to give time to, it's going to be Erik Ten Hag.
Yeah,
because
world-class
you
manager.
trust his system. I mean, for him to go against Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the biggest egos in the history of sport, to basically boot him out of the club, I mean, that takes moxie. That takes something from a guy, like Ronaldo even said, a guy who hasn't won really anything. For him to do that, and the players haven't fallen apart. He hasn't lost the locker room for doing that.
If anything, it's gotten better.
I mean, it's gotten better because there's nobody in the world. There's no player bigger than a club, and that's what the main consensus was. And I'm not gonna say, Ten Hag can bring this United team in the future to win the Premier League. I think they could be contenders. I think they'll be a perennial top 4 team for years to come as Ten Hag at the helm. But to see them as a real contender, I don't think there's a real possibility they can win the league this season.
But okay, I'll give you that. Even if I don't think my main point. I think my point is they're in the race. If they win tomorrow, for sure, they're in that. They're only 1 point away from City. You got to say they're in the race. Does that mean I think they're going to win the league? No, I wouldn't bet on it. But they are in the race. But my point is that even if they're not in the title race this season, I think I've seen enough so far, and the belief that in the future they're going to get some new signings. And I believe in whoever Ten Hag does want to sign. I think he's not the type of guy to just look. Some of the signings you see Chelsea make, for example, you scratch your head. It's a little bit of you don't understand it. Ten Hag is not getting a signing unless he signs off and says, I want this guy. So I think whoever he does bring in is going to be a perfect fit for his system. And if that happens with, a new owner that's going to want to splash the cash, I have no reason to believe that an Erik Ten Hag-led team with the core of players we have right now can't compete for the league in years to come. Even if you don't think this season,
years to come,
I think that, potentially next season, the season after, they could win the Premier League. I don't think it's too far-fetched.
Yeah, that's not crazy to say. I mean, who would have thought we'd be saying this about Arsenal? I'm just more looking at this as a right now thing, because you were so open to say, they're contenders, but it's just how you interpret what you believe a contender is. Like as the average football fan, what would you say a contender is? For me, I see a contender as someone I viably think can win the Premier League right now. And I think there's only 2 contenders, really. I mean, that's Arsenal and Manchester City. But yeah, I mean, it's a big ask. Can Manchester United beat City in the derby tomorrow? Who knows? It's football. But I think that's one of the biggest asks you can ask a team to do right now, to go beat Manchester City. And yeah, some teams have done it, but they've been able to draw with City. But when it comes to a big match like a derby, City usually turn up to these games.
So this might end up being a dumb question if by the time everyone's watching this tomorrow morning, Man City have absolutely smacked United or whatever. But I'm going to ask you this anyway, for the sake of argument. And if United do win, then we'll get to hear what your opinion would be. Let's just say, hypothetically, United win this game.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on Manchester United going to be then? Are you going to say, what could you say about them?
I think it will just more, it wouldn't really change what I think as like, they can win the Premier League now. I think if they just win one game, I don't think that changes my whole idea. They can win the Premier League right now.
They do play Arsenal after as well.
They do play Arsenal after. I mean, the Killers row. But I mean, I think, okay, let's just say, if we're gonna play this game, let's just say they beat both of them. They beat City and Arsenal.
Okay.
Look, if they beat both of those teams, then yeah, I'll come on here and say, you know what? Manchester United could do it right fucking now. They can win the league right
Oh,
now. But that's the biggest ask you could
it
ask
is.
of any team at this moment to beat number 1 and 2. That's as difficult as it gets. But I think if it, let's just say, let's just, step out of reality for a little bit and just say, yeah, they'll beat City. I think it'll just more like concrete, set it more concrete that Ten Hag is the guy and that they made the right decision and this guy is going to lead United to trophies and he's going to be that guy at the helm. You keep him for as long as you can, for 10 years, 20 years, you keep him for however long he wants to be here. You sign
Yeah.
whatever he wants, even if, Anthony looks to be, he's hit or miss. He likes to do 360 spins,
He
but
hasn't been a
you get
terrible
some out
signing.
of him.
Yeah,
He
no,
hasn't been horrible. You can get something.
I think
He
he's
looks
still
like he
gonna
can.
he's still gonna get
I
better.
think he could be I think he could be a solid piece in, a possibly. He's not going to be the best player on a Premier League winning team, but he could be a guy on them. He
Yeah.
could be a guy on one of those teams, and
Yeah.
So I think, if they win tomorrow, I think that wouldn't change my mind about them, possibly winning the title this season. But I think it would just, push the fact that Ten Hag is the man.
And what do you think about the way he's been able to bring back Marcus Rashford? Because I think for me, I rated Marcus Rashford, but I didn't think I would see this resurgence from him. I thought okay, maybe we were never going to see Rashford live up to his potential, and it looks like he actually is now.
Because we remember when he broke onto the scene in 2017, where this guy scored in every major debut for Manchester United. Premier League, FA Cup, I think every cup game, even in the Champions League. And this guy looked like a set for destiny. I mean, he was linked to Real Madrid, he's linked to Barcelona, but then he, kind of fell a bit back down to reality that he wasn't like a Kylian Mbappe just ready to take off. He's a great player. He's a very good player. On his day, he's untouchable. You can't play him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just good for the sport because he's so good for the sport in general because just how kind of even off the pitch, what he does off the pitch.
Yeah,
him as a man, he's a good man, and I can appreciate that. I'm glad to see him hit form because for all he does, I think he deserves it. I think he deserves to finally be playing. It's starting to pay off a little bit that he's able to stay healthy a little bit. We saw him, struggle with some injury, and now he's starting to explode back into the form that we've known him for. And he's still young.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like he should be about 30, but just because we learned about him when he was like 17 years old, it feels like he's been around for a long time. He's a bit of a veteran at this point. I mean, he's been in the Premier League for a good amount of years.
25, I think.
Yeah, he's around 25.
So it's like entering his prime.
Not even in his prime yet, and he's starting to catch form. And for a United team that's starting to resurge, it could be very good just in general for his entire career. And I'm glad to see it because I think he deserves it.
Yeah, I agree. I think Rashford is looking to be the guy we always thought he was going to be for United. We thought by this point, we thought he was going to be the guy who could be the best player on Manchester United. And right now, he is the talisman of Manchester United. He's become the player we thought he was going to be. And it's took he didn't take a straight road to doing it. It was a curved road. He hit bad form. He went sideways, backwards.
Yeah,
he started
as a 9, then switched to the wing, and now he's kind of a hybrid of the two.
Yeah, but I mean, I like Rashford as well. His charity work, the things he does off the pitch. I'm glad he has re-hit form, and I'm glad that Ten Hag was able to bring it out of him. I think we're getting a more mature Marcus Rashford, somebody who is going to be at this level, I think, for years to come. I think we're only seeing the beginning of what Rashford is going to be in the future. I think he's only going to get better from here on in.
Yeah, I think Ten Hag sees him as one that's going to be the focal point of the team that he's going to build.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of players in this team that he's already that are placeholders for his big grand project. And I think Martial is one of them, man. He's just a placeholder. Yeah. He's kind of like, he doesn't want to have him forever. He wants to obviously replace him. But Marcus Rashford is a person that he'd like to keep, and he'd like to, for the long term, and have him, spearhead this, this resurgence that he wants to run here.
I think my final point that I'm going to make with Manchester United, and then I'll let you say whatever you want to say if you have a final point, but I think Erik ten Hag is going to lead Manchester United to their first silverware since 2017 this season. I think they are winning the League Cup. They might win the FA Cup. They might win a different trophy. But I think at the bare minimum, they are winning the League Cup. They're going to beat Newcastle in the final. And Ten Hag is going to cement himself as the guy going forward for Manchester United. He's going to bring United silverware this season.
Yeah, I don't think that's too crazy to say. I would agree with that. I think they'll bring some silverware. I mean, they're still in Europa League. I think they can win that.
They could win Europa League as well.
I mean, that's that. I mean, people could scoff at that. I mean, and if you're a Premier League team in Europa League, I think it's very important that you win the Europa League so you can guarantee yourself.
In the
I
Champions
mean,
League.
the Champions League, because I mean, God knows what could happen. I mean, we could see this Manchester team be rattled with injuries toward the end of the season. They drop, vital points, and they're immediately back in Europa League. So at least they can guarantee themselves, no matter what, they can make Champions League football.
Yeah.
So
And
if they
I
can
think they'll
win
make it
that-
through top four anyway.
Yeah, I
but
think they'll make it top
even if
four
they
anyway,
don't.
but I'm just saying that there's an importance of being an English side in the Europa League. I think they should somewhat prioritize. We
it.
have to win that
Yeah,
because
they should win
top
it. They're
four.
probably the best
Top
team
four
in it.
is so difficult to make, but
Yeah, it is.
that would just be another piece of silverware he can add on to win as much trophies that are available, because
Yeah.
I mean
No.
he's we're talking
Yeah.
about that he's really in contention to win almost everything they're competing in at the moment.
Yeah, and I think I can't think of a much better season for Ten Hag than potentially being in the top four at the bare minimum, or being I think potentially top three bare minimum, winning either the League Cup or the FA Cup or both potentially. I think you're gonna win the League Cup, I would assume, and then also winning Europa League. That's like a dream season.
That is a very good first season.
It is. And I think that would set up Manchester United for the future to potentially, are they ever going
Challenge
to
for the
be
Premier League,
are they
yeah.
ever going to be what they were back in those, 2000s where they were winning the Premier League every season, it felt like? No, I don't think that's going to happen, but they can win, they can compete for a Premier League. They will be able to be back in contention, which is something we haven't talked about for Manchester United in such a long time, it feels like.
Yeah.
So that's a development that we're gonna have to wait and see on. By the time this comes out, we might be looking like idiots. No, not you, me. I might be looking like an idiot. And Manchester United got absolutely spanked by Man City, or I'm gonna look like a genius.
You're
we're
like a
gonna see.
prophet. Well, we'll have to see.
It remains to be seen.